It's the man with the master plan. I'm here to turn it out with the mic in my hand.
Although graffiti is viewed as straight-up vandalism, it also serves many other purposes. Graffiti is used for other things such as challenges, warnings, and pronouncements of deeds accomplished or about to occur. Graffiti is the most efficient way for gangs to communicate with each other and other rival gangs. It is said that graffiti is known as a newspaper and bulletin board of gangbangers. Organized graffiti is one of the first signs that gang is taking over your neighborhood, but it is also an excellent way to track gang growth and stop the problem before it gets out of hand. This picture is of Sureños graffiti. The Spanish sur means south, and as used here is a symbol of Southern California Hispanic gang. The 13 is a reference to the 13th letter in the alphabet, M. The M in Spanish is la M, which in gang terminology refers to Mexican mafia. Graffiti is basically the same as a dog lifting his leg and marking all the fences in the neighborhood and causing lots of damage that the homeowners will have to pay to get fixed.
Negative effects of graffiti would have to be if like the fumes get too strong, you get a little bit woozy and dizzy, and you can't focus on your artwork. So
gangs who use graffiti to mark their territory certainly are not thinking of the working class who is expected to clean up after them. Modern day graffiti is a type of detailed marking, whether it is pictures, drawings, words, or any decorations described on any surface, usually outside walls and sidewalks. Graffiti is also highly illegal, or else it wouldn't be graffiti. It is one of the most infamous means of vandalism. There is also a controversy over the difference of tagging and graffiti. Tagging is said to be gang-related, including vulgar and controversial subjects. Graffiti, on the other hand, is argued to be creative expression, whether expressing political meaning or not.
Well, my attitude is, it's just art. It's just artwork, and that's how I feel, and that's what it is. Graffiti enrolls in my life because that's how I can express myself, That's how I speak, my problems.
The graffiti we all know today was actually started in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1960. One of the first graffiti artists is Daryl McCrae, known as Cornbread. He first graffitied his name on the streets of Philadelphia back in 1967 in a juvenile institution when he was 10 years old. He got his name from a cook, Mr. Swanson. He thought Daryl was annoying because he would go into the kitchen and insist that he put cornbread on the menu. One day, Mr. Swanson angrily grabbed him by the shirt, walked him to the counselor and said, "Keep this cornbread out of my kitchen." After that, everybody was making fun of him, calling him cornbread, but he didn't think of it as a tease. Instead, he liked the name. He started writing the name all over the walls of the institution, on books, the bathroom, the visitor room, everywhere. He was released in 1967, and that's when he started writing in the streets. When he got out, he met a girl named Cynthia in school, which he liked. He would walk her home from school every day. He started writing "Cornbread loves Cynthia" all over the neighborhood. She didn't know Cornbread, she only knew him as Daryl. One day, Cynthia saw "Cornbread loves Cynthia" written on his school book and fell in love with him. Her parents didn't like him because he was a troublemaker, and they thought she deserved someone better. So they moved out of the neighborhood and transferred to another school. After she left, he stopped writing "Cornbread loves Cynthia" and just started writing "Cornbread." In 1969, he started to see other names on walls. He started to appear in the newspaper, on the radio, and in magazines. There were 10,000s of writers by 1972. It spread from Philadelphia to New York to Chicago. There was a rumor that Cornbread was dead. He had a friend named Cornelius, but they called him Corn instead. Corn was shot in the head and mistaken that it was Cornbread. Everybody was saying that Cornbread was dead, but it was the wrong person, so Cornbread had to do something about it. He decided to break into a zoo and spray paint an elephant. Cornbread lives. He also tagged it on cop cars, paddy wagons, and 30-story skyscrapers. He stopped spray painting when he was 17 years old. Another graffiti artist pioneer was Taki 183. His real name was Demetrius. He was one of the first famous graffiti artists in New York. During his childhood, Demetrius grew up with Greek kids like himself. His tag was short for Demetaki, a Greek alternative for his birth name, Demetrius. And the number 183 came from his street address, 183rd Street in Washington Heights. In the 1970s, he would ride this train to school. Along the ride, he would tag Taki 183 on subway stations. When he was a delivery boy, he would deliver to the Upper East Side. He would use a pizza box to cover himself while he tagged his name on light poles. The punishments for graffiti. Under Penal Code Section 594, the penalty given depends on the dollar amount of damage done.
I've been charged doing graffiti only once in the back of a Circle K. And that's because the manager went out and, dumped out the garbage, so.
Essentially, the cost of property damages done by a tagger determines whether he or she is charged with a misdemeanor or felony.
Up to this day, I actually do graffiti. I'm a little bit more cautious and a little bit more careful where I do it. So. Okay.
The vandal is allotted a separate charge from each victim, so multiple victims are not stockpiled into the single charge. If the amount of damage is less than $400, it is a misdemeanor and is punishable by up to a year in jail or a fine up to $1,000. If the damage is more than $400, the offense may be charged as a felony, requiring a penalty up to 1 year in prison and a fine up to $10,000. Graffiti artists, also known as writers, would write their names on walls of subways, buildings, train stations, or fences, just to bring attention to themselves or their gangs.
Man, I've painted on buses, abandoned cars, walls, every wall, wherever there's brick, there's paint.
All of this commission led to bombing, not actual bombs, but the explosion of graffiti all over the city. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing people's graffiti names painted all over. But it was time to make a change. It was time to stand out. Everyone was writing their names and getting signs in bigger, better, more elaborate fonts than the ones before them. To be able to be recognized, you had to be creative.
I really do feel disrespected when somebody else tags over mine because I'm putting my heart and soul into that graffiti, and somebody comes in and destroys my graffiti. It doesn't only destroy my graffiti, it destroys my soul.
One of the earliest known graffiti artists was a man who went by the name of Stay High 149. Stay High was known for his unique way of writing his name in an artistic way. He would replace the dash in the letter H with a smoking joint. Stay High got his name from his best friend because he was always high. Being a messenger, he was back and forth through town all day long, and like many other graffiti artists, he would tag upwards of 100 trains a day. When Stay High 149 finally got caught by the police, he was arrested and forced never to use that name again. When he got out of jail, he began to use the name Voice of the Ghetto. He never told anyone this name so he could stay unknown. Several years later, after changing his name, he stopped doing graffiti because he felt he was too old. After 20 years of solving some personal issues and paying time for marijuana-related crimes, he returned to the streets in the year 2000, tagging the words "Graffiti King returns after 20 years." Once they had first started making a name for himself, there was another artist that went by the name of Supercool. Supercool was the first to use a thick font instead of elaborate skinny font. The thought behind this was so anyone could see it no matter how far away they were. Supercool started the trend of drawing an outline and filling the rest in with his imagination.
It's really not hard to learn graffiti. It's just, letting your mind just into its own little world and just take you away,
Eventually, the train owners grew tired of their property being vandalized and started to fight back. They would repaint all of the trains frequently and build fences around train yards. The owners also took precautions and hired security to watch over their property. This made it so much harder for graffiti artists to spread their artwork, whether it was gang-related or just an artistic expression. Another way graffiti was reduced was by the effort to lock down paint in stores and shops, making it harder to be stolen and purchased by underage kids. ID was also required to buy any kind of paint. This discouraged many taggers and graffiti artists, and eventually made them quit. The ones who remained grew to be very territorial and would fight for their property.
I graffiti by myself because, I believe my brother's in me and he's there right with me graffitiing by my side, so.
At this time, anyone who was a tagger needed to be part of a gang or have physical strength to defend themselves.
Yeah. Is y'all ready for this? It's the man with the master plan. I'm here to turn it out with the mic in my hand.